Okay, so today I'm actually going to be doing a scene by scene spoiler discussion talk of Avatar The Last Airbender The Boy and Iceberg. Okay, this is season 1, episode 1. Before we get into this, do not forget to leave a comment down below. Also, like and subscribe. Now let's get into it. Okay, so first off, we're seeing a lot of ice and water. Okay, so we're introduced to two people, Katara and Sokka. These two are brothers and sisters. All right, they're in like this little small boat looking for food, and Sokka, he has like this little wooden spear kind of thing, and he's over here trying to catch a fish. But you see that Katara is over here doing some water bending, and she has a fish in this water. He goes and pokes the water by accident, and the water goes and falls all on him, and the fish just falls back in the water. And he is just like, he was not paying her any mind. And he was just like, dude, like, girl, you in that little freaky deaky water mess that you do, just come on, we ain't got time for that. We looking for food. Okay. So then there's a crazy rush of water that just appears out of nowhere, and it destroys their boat. They end up on this giant slab of ice, okay? And he's like, oh, you see, you're doing this, it's women, and you guys suck. And she's like, you know what? And she just is like, I cannot stand you. And then she's doing all this. And then she ends up like cracking like this giant iceberg. And she cracks it. And there's just like a whole thing that happens. So you see like this crazy glow within this iceberg, and it's like, oh no. So then they start looking at the iceberg. They're like, there's a kid in there. It's a kid with a giant arrow on his forehead. Like, what's going on? Because he was like this. And then he opened his eyes, and she was like, what's going on? So then she's like, okay, let me try to pry this open. The brother's like, we ain't got ish to do with this. Leave this alone. She's like, come on, just stop it. She opens it up, or it manages to open up, and it's a giant bright beam of light that just shoots up into the air. So then you see another group of people. They are on this Fire Nation, Fire Navy ship. You're introduced to Zuko and Uncle Iroh. Okay, this is his uncle. Zuko got that little ponytail, bald head, ponytail, whatever. And he's like, yo, this is probably the Avatar. I gotta capture the Avatar. And the uncle's like, I don't know. I don't think you really need. He's like, I gotta do it. And he's like, okay. So now we cut back to Sokka and Katara. And Sokka, he's over here poking Aang like he's some kind of foreign species or something. He's poking like, what's going on over here? And Aang, he's like, oh, I just have to ask you something. Closer. And then she's like, what? He's like, will you go penguin sliding with me? And she's like, yeah, sure. Okay. So then you see that across, like around this iceberg, Appa's there, his flying bison, which is alive too. And they're like, okay. And they're like, what the heck is this? This boy is weird. So then Sokka, he's like, yo, I don't know. He's like, this boy may be working for the Fire Nation. He's like, I'm not working for the Fire Nation. He's like, I got friends, whatever. But then something gets his nose and he sneezes. He flies plenty of feet in the air. And they're like, are you an airbender? And then he's like, yeah, of course. And then he was like, okay. So Aang and the gang, Aang, Katara, and Sokka, they're all like, okay, let's all go. So he's like, Appa, yip. Boy, and then Appa's like, I'm not flying. And then Sokka's like, yeah, I knew it. I knew this thing couldn't fly. This area that they're in is the Southern Water Tribe. So they're heading back, and Aang is just like this. And Katara's like, why are you smiling at me? He's like, oh, no reason. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know what I mean? So then we cut to the Fire Nation ship, and we have Uncle Iroh. He's like, yo, you're not going to find the Avatar. He's like, your grandfather tried to look for him. Your great-grandfather tried to look for him. He's like, your father tried to look. He ain't here. And then he's like, nah. He's here. This light means he's here. He's like, whatever, dude. So then we head back to the gang. Aang, he then gets asked by Katara, like, okay, do you know anything about the Avatar? Tara. Aang's like, no, Avatar, I don't know anything about the Avatar. I don't know why would you even ask me a question like that? And she's like, oh, just curious. And he was like, I don't know anything about the Avatar. So it was one of those things, was like, Okay. And Aang, after that moment, he has a flashback of him on Appa, and it's a severe storm that took place. And Aang, he's holding on to Appa. They end up in the water, and it looks like they're about to die. And then out of nowhere, his eyes glow, his tattoo glows, and he goes like that, and it forms this iceberg, and it has gotten lost. So you see, like, okay, this is what happened. This is what he remembers. And then once he wakes up from, I guess you could say, this nightmare, essentially, he's in their village, for Sokka and Katara's village. They made it. I guess he was just like completely out, exhausted on the ride. So they brought him down. So this is the Southern Water Tribe. Y'all, there's about 15 people up here. Katara, she was like, yeah, here's the tribe. And I'm thinking, it's about 15 people up here, y'all. And about 7 of them are kids. So the grandmother, she looks at Aang and she was like, I thought airbenders were extinct. And he's like, no, extinct? No, that's crazy. It's crazy to talk that up. And then it was like, okay. One thing I did notice about the grouping of people that were here, there were no men, quote unquote, because Sokka's like, what, 14, I think, or something like that. But there were no men in there besides Sokka. All the other fathers, or whatever, they all were at a war. So it's only him. So it makes sense to me why he's like, oh, I gotta do this, because he's the only one that is your male leader of the group. Katara's grandmother. We talk to her. Well, we see her and Katara talking, and she's like, you don't need to be putting that much faith in this boy. You don't know this boy, and he could be none but trouble. She's like, oh, come on, Grams. So now we cut to a scene. We see the Fire Nation ship, and Uncle Iroh is teaching how to do these fire tricks and whatnot, which I thought was interesting. I'm like, well, shouldn't you already know how to do this stuff since you are on a mission? But I digress. So Zuko, he's like, I don't want to learn that. Whatever, teach me the more advanced stuff. And then he's over yelling at his uncle, and I'm like, wait, hold up. You do not mess with Uncle Iroh. Okay. And he was like, I'll do it, but I gotta eat first. I ain't got time for your mess. And then he's like, okay. So it was really cute, the little banter between them. So now we head back to the Water Tribe. You guys, Sokka over here, he's trying to train these men. It's about 6 5-year-olds up in here, y'all. And because all the fathers are gone, I'm like, dude, you are not going to teach these kids how to do anything. They ain't gonna be able to do anything. So then you see that Aang, he's over here trying to play around and whatnot, just have fun, have a childhood and everything. And Sokka, he's just like, dude, this is not funny business, okay? He's like, we're in a war. And he's like, whatever, dude, I don't know what you're even talking about. So Aang, he's like, yo, I want to play with some penguins. And then Katara's like, yeah, I'll go with you, whatever. So then Katara, after they did their penguin sledding and stuff, she's like, hey, Aang, could you actually teach me how to waterbend, since you know how to airbend and all that? I'm sure you know how to waterbend as well. I don't know why she automatically thought that, but whatever. I guess she already knew, like, okay, you must be the Avatar dude, but whatever. But she was like, could you help me waterbend? And he was like, I don't know how to do that. He said, why don't you ask anyone else from your tribe? And she was like, well, I'm the only one here that knows how to waterbend. He's like, what? That's insane. Well, he was like, well, I know that there's the Northern Water Tribe. And really, we could go there. We could get on Appa and we could be there, sooner than obviously taking a boat or something like that. And she was like, you know what? Cool. So, now they're sledding on, they're doing other sledding and all that. And Katara says a line that was very important. She said, I haven't done this since I was a kid. And Aang was like, you still are a kid. And that's the thing, because the war has made her, among other people, it forced them to grow up. There's no like, oh, I could just keep playing. No, they forced you to grow up. So after their whole adventures of, playing in the snow and all that, they stumble upon an old Fire Navy ship. Right? So she goes and tells them like, yo, we can't go up in here. And then he's like, oh, come on, it'll be fun. Come on, it's a Fire Navy. And she's like, I heard there was booby traps. He's like, oh, come on. She's like, okay, cool. So they go in there, they just start wandering around. And she was over here saying like, yo, this Fire Navy ship has been here since my grandmother was small and this and that. And he was like, why are people, and she starts bringing up the war. And Aang's like, well, why are people talking about this war? What war? We're not in a war. She was like, how long were you in that iceberg? And he was like, I don't know, a day or two. And she was like, I think you were in there for 100 years. She was like, think about it. This has been 100-year war and you don't know anything about it. The only thing that would be an explanation for it is that you weren't even around. So then he was like, oh my God, I think it has been 100 years. So the homeboy has been he's 112 years old. Okay, that's what's going on. So then they're like, oh man, okay, well, we gotta go. I'm just not feeling this. Tell me why Aang steps on a booby trap, and this booby trap sets a freaking firework up in the air, y'all. And it's like, oh my God, let's go back to Southern Water Tribe. Let's go back to the tribe after we flee this ship. And then you see Zuko. He sees them on a telescope. He's like, wow, this 100-year-old man is very agile or whatever. And he's following him on, via the telescope. And that is how episode 1, season 1 ends for Avatar: The Last Airbender. I really enjoyed the series. I mean, all of it. Oh my goodness. It's so much fun. Just how they go about doing things. And even though, cartoon, anime, whatever people will call it, animation, even though it is that, it's you could have a child watch it, they'll be entertained, but you could even be an adult and watch it and be like, yo, this is really fun. This is really entertaining. But let me know if you all have seen this episode and or show and what your thoughts and opinions were of it.